the first item on the agenda is trustee roll call, so Christie? Here. John is absent this evening. Cheryl?
Here.
Sharon? Here. Sonia?
Here.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of this evening's agenda. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I do.
Okay, second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
One absent. Okay, and then just a reminder about our communication and meeting protocols. We hope that I think everyone's been to multiple meetings, so they should be familiar with that at this point. So I will move us along to our public comment period, and this is an opportunity to speak on something that's not on this evening's agenda. Can I see how many people would like to speak during this portion? Just two? Okay, so if you don't mind introducing yourself and then.
Go for it. Okay. James Cowell. Just had two quick questions. How are the portables being used for this year, and what are your plans for next year using it? And then now that I heard that Cascade Canyon is closing, are you still pursuing that as an option for space? I mean, I know that I don't think in the last meeting you had talked about looking for something. You said there were some options, but that was sort of, so now this seems like a real option. How are you doing? What are you doing to pursue that? I guess that's a question.
Okay. All right.
Rob Sandusky. I was just curious, I know you guys recently had a visit by the CDE, and I was wondering if you make public the results of that, what their findings were.
Okay. So I will close public comment then. I think some of these are going to actually be addressed in some of the
What?
reports and so on, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So the next agenda item would be the school director's report.
Because this is not covered there, the portable is used for many things. It's like innumerable things. There's art that happens in there, there's pull-out that happens for kids, there's math instruction that happens in there, there's before and after care that happens in there.
So it changes per day, per whatever.
Depending upon the need. Because things are tight, so it depends upon the day and the need. But and as far as Cascade goes, I mean, it's sad news to hear about Cascade. Like everybody probably knows some family that's either had kids there or has kids there. And you know, I know I was kind of excited to see what they were coming up with, the new leadership of the new plan. With that, it's only been a couple days, so it's always a plan of ours to move out of here if possible. And so if we can make that happen, we'll make that happen.
I'm gonna break protocol for a second. Is it something that you asked for, or they solicit for you? I don't.
Well, initially they'd come to us,
Okay.
so it's just going back to that conversation.
And I apologize for
Yeah,
breaking.
yeah.
I just was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then director's report, some more. Just our enrollment snapshot. We are at 173 kids. 130 of those are in district residents, so bring us at 75% of our total students. We have 18 English language learners, 28 English language learners, 18 of those being in district. We have free and reduced population is 27% of our school, so, and I predict that's gonna stay steady for the rest of the school year. The other thing I wanted to talk about is our state visit, to Rob Sandusky's point. I have the letter, which is also posted on our website and the board docs. It's a summary of the annual site visit, and this is all we've gotten back so far. And that is just saying thank you for the visit. let's see what the key part is. During the CDE site visit, the CDE conducted classroom observations, conducted interviews of school leadership, staff, board members, parents, and other stakeholders. They reviewed artifacts along with supplemental information, dug through all of our files. To this end, CDE determined that RVC is in compliance with the RVC charter petition, the CDE's memorandum of understanding between the State Board of Education and RVC. Additionally, as the California Assessment of Student, so we passed, is the short end of the short letter.
And if I could just interject, I was lucky enough to sit in on the final meeting in the summary, and he was really complimentary. He said that we should just keep on doing what we're doing. He said, and it's really clear, you walk in the halls and the classrooms, that we're really working to meet the needs of all of our students where they're at, and that's really clear, and you can see that, and we should just keep on doing the good work we're doing. So, thank you to Luke and all the teachers, and it was very flattering, and you guys should all be really proud of all the hard work you put in doing all of that. So, kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And we work hard to meet the needs of our kids
Yeah.
and try to do it,
And he clearly saw that.
so,
He
yeah.
seemed really
You never
impressed.
know how people are gonna see things.
Yeah, he was really impressed.
And then there was a meeting with, at Marin County Office of Education with Mary Jane Burke. Nick Schweitzer from the CDE is the deputy superintendent, Rick Bagley, superintendent of RVSD, and Nate Pieprin, board chair. Sharon and I were both there. And really that meeting was set up to help answer questions about the state's oversight of our school. As it seems that the district has questions regarding that. And so really that's what the meeting was about, was the CD answering the district's questions about their oversight. And,
There's nothing really surprising to us that we didn't already know.
yeah, we know how we're overseen, it's all ed code and the memorandum of understanding, which is all public documentation. And, they were stuck on the idea of our finances, and Nick Schweitzer said they've gone over our finances. They go over them 4 times a year thoroughly. They do their own study. We had an audit last year, we passed our audit, and that they've seen no problems with our finances.
And they said that they put our budget through the same FIGMAT audit, process as any other school district in the state has put through, so, they looked at it very thoroughly and didn't have any concerns. They said if they ever did have a concern of a school, then they would issue a report to the school and findings and things that they needed to do, but he did acknowledge at the meeting that there was no such plan or report in place for our school, and that there aren't any concerns at this point from the CDE regarding any of that. And also, I guess the other topic that came up a lot was one-time funding.
Mm-hmm.
And he said once the funds are received, then they can be put into a budget just like any other funds that are received for a district. In fact, school districts get one-time funds often into their budgets when the state has some money and they say, here's some money and it's one-time funding, and take that into consideration when you plan how to spend the money, and the state treats it the same for charter schools. What would concern them is if for year after year after year, you're budgeting huge sums of one-time funds into your multi-year plan because those aren't received funds. But the fact that we had already received our one-time funds that are planned into our budget was not any concern to them.
So, yeah. That was it. So that ends the director's report.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is board and staff information.
I have a question on the director's report.
I can answer it after the meeting if you want.
Wait,
It's just a report, it's not a,
Let her ask the
yeah,
question.
go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there another follow-up report that the CDE does besides just the summary that you got? Like, there's the P1 reports, is there anything larger that they pulled together? And then there was a mention in the letter that said, like, as fiscal reports become available, additional requests, do you know what, they said as LCAP, there was two things that they said, as something and more financial reports become available, we may ask you for something. Do you know what that was in reference to, like, is there other information they're waiting for?
No, that's just standard language, that as, no, that's part of their monitoring, as information comes, that they will continue to
So
monitor.
it wasn't any
If they-
specific thing
no.
that they're waiting for?
If they need some information from us, they ask for it, we'll give it to them.
And do you know if there's any larger report that they do besides just that, like, do you get something else besides just that letter, or is that all you guys get?
That's all I have.
And that's all you have?
That's all I've gotten, and it's all I know of, yeah.
Last year, is that the same?
Yeah.
You just get a two-page letter and that's it?
Other than, there's a meeting at the end where they talk about the visit and give us, you know.
So they don't have like a check thing or nothing? Okay.
Well, they do, but it's not,
It's not a big deal, but it is. Yeah.
I think it's, if you're not meeting something, then they itemize it in this letter and you hear it.
yeah, there were no findings. If there were findings, they would have been in here.
Okay, board and staff information updates. Does anyone have anything they want to report on that has happened since our last meeting? No, okay. Then we will move on to our general topics. The first item is our application and lottery update. And so, I don't know if everyone has this report, but it was posted online, right? Okay.
So, Con, you put this chart together.
Yeah, so, this is a very busy chart. But basically, the logic of it is, the first box is the current enrollment rolled up 1 year. So there's 132 kids there. The next chart is applying our retention percentages from last year, which was 94% for in-district and 84% for out-of-district. So if you apply those percentages against the 132, it brings it down to 121. It's just, you know, basically, the punchline here is we don't know what our enrollment's gonna be, but this is like a variety of information that helps us guesstimate. We've registered 40 new students, which is the next box. There's, which if you add that to the 121 gets you to 161. Except,
I was gonna say, really, it's 132, is the students who've returned. I mean, I know you're applying this.
I know,
Discount rate.
but I just think as an expectation,
Yeah.
they're not all gonna come back. And I think Luke thinks that the retention rate this year will be a little higher,
But we're being conservative.
but it's really not predictable, and this is kind of a reasonable number to guesstimate. So, if you add those, it's 161. There are 7 kids who have been offered a spot but haven't completed their registration, or some of them haven't started, they have until Wednesday. And so, I just put the full number there rather than guesstimate. The next box are students that have applied, but there were 12 of them in the last enrollment period, 2 more applied today. So we had a lottery for like 5 people today, just before the meeting. And then there's 4 out-of-district kids that are waitlisted. And if everybody who has applied comes, which is kind of like the outside number, it's 186. And if you look at how the distribution of those kids are, it works out pretty well. We have, 3 TK1 classes of 22, then 3 classes of 23, and a 3-4 class of 23, and then a 2-4-5s of 24 and 25. So it's a pretty good distribution. But, the decisions we need to make tonight, the only decision we need to make tonight is whether or not what do we do about these kids who were in the lottery today and the ones who are on the wait list? recommendation, I think it's Lou's, but I'll let him speak for himself, is that given the possibility that we may be able to be at St. Rita's, we need more kids than we need if we're here, because we have a certain cap on our capacity if we're here. And so, and given the fact that there's a drop-off and the more we wait to get people registered, the more likely it is that parents will look at other options and there'll be more drop-off. So I think given all that, I think my recommendation is we go ahead and accept all these kids, because if we're in St. Rita's, it won't matter a bit whether they're in district or out of district. And that we really keep on, I mean, the Cascade Canyon parents found out Sunday, so, you know, and they had been somewhat led to believe that the school was gonna happen before that. So I think, I'm guessing that the two applied today, or I'd be surprised if they weren't Cascade Canyon parents. And my guess is there may be some more, and we just ought to just have another lottery on Sunday night, you know, and keep on. We'll know more in a week, and I think I think it's smart for us to continue to try to build our own.
So, yeah.
And there's less risk now, a lot of district kids creating a problem for us.
Yeah, that's basically my recommendation, is that we accept the kids, and that, well, there's risk if we don't move, with the district basically capping us at, with 6.5 classrooms and 8 classes of kids creates a problem, and that's, you know, one reason to really look hard at our lottery, because where do you put 8 classes of kids in 6.5 classrooms, or where do you put 7 classes of kids in 6.5 classrooms? So, really, knowing that there's some natural attrition, that people apply don't always come. You know, Cascade Canyon's published attrition rate was 50% of people who applied came. So that's something we need to consider for ourselves too, given our history, even though that rate is improving over time. That some people who apply won't come, new people will come along later, but in the end, I think it's safer to, or better to take them rather than say no and then lose them, which has happened in the past.
Yeah, and it's only the middle of April right now, but, you know, once people go away for the summer, there's not quite as much activity, so the next few weeks will tell us a lot more.
I'm wondering if both of you, when you're recommending that, are you saying that those 4 kids that are on the wait list, that we go ahead and admit them as well?
Yeah.
Just admit everybody?
And they've called and said they're interested. I mean, you know, whether they would really come or not, I don't know,
Yeah.
but they both seem like they're interested in coming.
After being waitlisted, you mean they called and said?
Yes.
Yeah, today.
Can you clarify for me what you meant about the lottery that happened today and 5, that identified 5 spots?
So there were 12 applicants today. You can see where the grades, I mean, you can't see it really because I bundled in 2 more. Sharon, you have a sheet there.
I see the applied pending lottery, so you're saying of those, there were 5 spots, so you.
Of those 14, 12 applied by last night at midnight.
Right,
We had a lottery a little bit ago for the 5 kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So one of the
7
first
kids
two-
who were there multiple kids in a grade. But there's only 1 applicant for a grade in versus out, you don't need a lottery.
So if there's 1 first grader, then you don't have one.
oh,
They automatically,
Oh,
if
I
they're
see.
gonna be put on a wait list, they would automatically go on a wait list. Or if you're accepting, they'd automatically, there's no reason to pull their
One
poker
kid.
chip out of the
Yeah.
roller ball, the cage. So you know, what we did last time is we accepted all the in-district and waitlisted all the out-of-district because of concern of not having enough space for in-district kids, thinking we are in a multiple-year process and we wanna keep building that ratio. Since then, we lost some of the people who we thought were registered or were registered, they withdrew, so that number has shrunk, so we have more space.
And several of those families were Cascade families who thought Cascade was gonna open, so did they come back?
So, I just think we have more, space now, I think we have plenty of space, but we could decide to put, you know, I mean, we have a room for 172 with 7 classrooms on this campus. I think we clearly figured out how to do that.
And hopefully we'll be at a different site that has more space.
And I think for operating purposes, we are kind of planning to be someplace else with a fallback plan.
I don't see a lot of reason not to accept everybody and go for it. I think it just makes sense. And it's also a very nice spread, just in terms of age groups, like it actually works well for the class distribution, so it's great.
You know, I point out that, you know, we're registering like,
A little over 3 kids per class, 1 through 5. So classes 1 through 5, we're averaging pulling from someplace else, 3 kids.
and the new group, it's the same,
It's 3.
you know, there's 3 kids per 1, 5. So we're doing pretty good on attracting people, you know, in our history, we now have 2 years of history, and the history is slow, steady growth. And I think this just continues the pattern, and, you know, moving might have some effect on that, we just don't know where it'll be. We can imagine, but we can't know for sure, and we don't know for sure that we're gonna move. But I think of all the risks we face, I think taking the risk of having too many kids here is the right risk to take.
Well, I know, just not thinking about numbers, it's all about numbers, I'm thinking about little human beings, and we don't wanna turn kids away. I mean, we want kids and families who wanna come to our school to be able to come.
And that was a strong feeling expressed at the parent meeting last week.
Yeah, it was.
I agree, I think we should go ahead and accept everyone that we have, and then we're gonna have to see what, you know,
Right.
the next weeks hold in terms of
Right.
how.
And we're not
comfortable
gonna, I mean, it's highly unlikely we're gonna get 100%
No.
of all these people anyway, so
Right.
that gives us some wiggle room, so I agree. I think it only makes sense to accept them, let them know now, and so that they have time to think about it and decide what they wanna do with their kids, and aren't in limbo for another month or whatever.
But there's the security of knowing that they have a spot with us.
Right.
that will-
Right,
Waitlists are no fun,
yeah.
nobody likes waitlists.
Any more comments before I go for public comment? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? 2 people? Okay, you can introduce yourselves.
I'm Teresa. I just had a question, if you're accepting all the kids, and you're at the site, and you said you have a cap, was it 6.5, whatever the offer is? What's to say that you wouldn't go again to try and get more classes? As your school spreads, the other one will shrink, be forced to be more crowded. I mean, I see that happen in the schools that I go to all the time in the city, in West Country Crossing. So just wondering, would you open your doors to all the kids, but then keep them within what you were given from the district? Or are you gonna plan to try to get more classes? Legally, through the courts.
Shelley?
I had a question about your explanation, similar to Cheryl, yours, in terms of these numbers, and you're adding the 7 plus the 14 plus the 4 to get to the 186, but it sounds like the accepted, the 7 it sounds like there might be some overlap in those numbers, I still can't understand how the 14 fits with the 7 and the 5 and the 12, and, cause none of that adds up to 14. So I'm just not really clear, and you said 12 of them had applied by midnight last night, which means they would have been in the lottery today, and this says enrollment as of 4:15. So the accepted but not registered was that for a previous lottery? So I'm just wondering if you could
Yes.
go through, so the
Yes.
accepted but not registered was a previous lottery?
Yes.
Got it, okay. And so the 14 on the applied, and anyhow, I'll let you go, maybe go through that again.
I think I can bridge
And
that.
then my other question was, do you, on your enrollment, the way that you do your lottery, do you have a preference for in-district first and then out-of-district, or were they all supposed to be one pot?
Yes.
It's
In-district preference? Okay. And do you have any update on the situation with the RVSD in-district, out-of-district hoo-ha that you talked about last time in terms of certifying this maybe 8 now instead of 9, that there was questions about whether they were in-district or out-of-district, if you have an update on that.
Okay,
Just
more
to clarify,
questions?
8 or 9 what, like there's specific names?
Well, the district is, you know, the district has
I just wanna
names.
close the public comment and make sure there's no
Okay.
more before I come. Okay,
Those are my questions.
I didn't wanna start a conversation.
yeah.
So, I think there's Teresa's question about will we get more classrooms?
I think the answer to that is, wait and see.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what's.
No, I feel differently about that. That question, the way that I heard it was, will we go through the courts to try to get more classrooms for the upcoming year? And I just think that's totally not even an option. Well, there's a Prop 39 process that takes a year long. We've gone through it. We've already essentially almost completed it. So the idea that we would try to start over again or something, we have to follow the process. So I just think we have to follow the legal process that's outlined.
So we have a few weeks left until we have a response from the district.
Yeah.
Right, and we, you know, we do have the option to litigate, should we decide that
It's true, but we can't like rewrite the rules, is what
Correct.
I'm saying.
That's
We have
correct.
to follow the process that we've gone through. You
Right.
can't just make up new rules and new
Correct.
rules. But-
Yeah.
Correct.
So that would be the answer, and I think,
Um,
did you get your answer about how we got to 186? They're all separate pots of kids, there's no overlap
There-
between them.
There's no, every kid on this sheet is a different kid,
Right.
if that's what you were asking.
So
They're
the
unique.
14 applied pending lottery was before we had our lottery this evening. 12 of them were a part of the lottery. There's been 2 more applications since the lottery
Which
window
are in,
closed
which are
last
in
night.
these numbers.
Right,
Which I
But
just
they're
put
not
it,
anything.
but no, they're part of the
they are in the
14.
numbers, they're in the
Yeah.
186, just to show what the absolute maximum number is.
Right.
At this point, that's the, and of course, 2 of them aren't really in
We
that
haven't
list,
included them yet, yes.
but,
it's just the 161 plus a 7 plus 14 plus 4 equals 186.
correct.
So to clarify, I think the issue of the 5 and the 7, those are subsets within the 14. So if you put aside the lottery that happened today, if the board decides, let's let everybody in, the 5 and the 7 in that lottery that happened today doesn't matter. So that was the question I had, and I understood it to not fully clearly what the 5 and 7 in the subset, but basically if the 12 that were in the lottery as of last night, if we only accepted a certain amount of them, then look by grade who you could take, and if there, then for the conflicts, there was a lottery. So if the board says, no, we're gonna stick to the lottery, then that 5 or 7, that number matters, but if the board sounds like leaning toward let everybody in, then that subset of the 12/14 doesn't matter.
Then the lottery was a waste of time.
Yeah,
So then you accept the 14 and the 4? and
No,
the
yeah,
no,
we
we're
can't
only
accept,
accepting 12
there's 2 in that 14 that didn't apply
until today.
until today.
And so they
So we
would be
can't,
the
we
next.
need to put them through a process.
Got it. And the wait list was part of a prior lottery?
Yes.
And you accept them or no? When you-
That's what we're talking about
Got it.
tonight, yeah. Any more questions up here? Okay, do I hear a motion for approval of the recommendation to accept all the students who have applied other than the most recent two who just applied today?
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And absent. Okay, we'll move on to our next, which is an update on the learning progress, and I think it's just gonna be a discussion item this evening, not an action item.
Because one thing we need to do is go through the report cards with the teachers, to do this process with the teachers before it comes to the board. So I just wanted to kind of show you what the report card looks like, so this is a redacted report card.
Okay.
And so,
Do we have a phone page?
no, here, sorry, Christie. If anybody else got just one page,
It is just one page.
Just one. Do we have
sorry, that was the master copy.
I got the other one page out, but I'm gonna give you that one.
So basically what we're gonna do is, so you know what you're looking at. There's a key at the top that shows the numerical rating that goes with each standard. And then you'll see down below, you'll see different buckets. There's one for reading, one for writing, one for listening and speaking. So these are standards-based report cards. So they're based on California state standards, but we also have other parts added in, like on the back, there's inquiry studies. We have our enrichment classes of Spanish and music and art. We also have PE, which isn't an enrichment class, and then we have, it is enriching them. And then we have a different section on social and emotional development, which aren't state standards, but we have decided that we value them, so have them there, and some learning skills as well. And then next to those are 2 columns. There will be 3 columns by the end of the year. And so T1 is the first trimester, T2 is the second trimester, then there'll be the third trimester. And these are 2-year report cards, so this is a second grader. So the report card will look the same next year. And really, the goal is for them to be getting 3s and 4s by the end of their 3rd grade year. So 3 is, if we look beyond A's and B's and C's as grades, because they are truly meaningless, that if we're, take that vision out of our head, and if you look at a 3, which is meeting standard, that is, they're meeting expectations.
And we predict that they will, that's what, where there's a state standard involved.
Yeah.
That's what will happen when they take the state tests.
Yes.
It's kind of a predictive tool.
Yeah.